2020. I'm going to start out by reading our preamble here that we do. Good evening. As chairman of the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen, I am declaring that an emergency exists, and I am invoking the provisions of RSA 91A2 3B. Federal, state, local officials have determined the gatherings of 10 or more people pose a substantial risk to our community and is continuing efforts to combat the spread of COVID-19. In concurring with their determination, I also find that this meeting is imperative to the continued operation of town government and services, which are vital to public safety and confidence during this emergency. As such, this meeting will be conducted without a quorum of this body physically present in the same location. At this time, I also welcome members of the public accessing this meeting remotely. Even though this meeting is being conducted in a unique manner under unusual circumstances, the usual rules of conduct and decorum apply. Any person found to be disrupting this meeting will be asked to cease the disruption. Should the disruptive behavior continue thereafter, that person will be removed from this meeting. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. So we'll start the meeting by taking a roll call of attendance. And when each member states their name, please state whether there is anyone in the room during this meeting with you, which is required under the right to know law. We'll start off with Linda.
Linda Murray. I'm in a room in my house by myself.
Paul.
Good evening, Paul O'Brien. I'm here in a room in my house by myself.
Dave Senecal.
I'm here at home by myself.
Dave Bowers.
Here with wife Christine and my cat.
Yeah. And I'm Brad Harriman. I'm in a room by myself right now, but my wife might walk through to make a cup of tea or something later on.
Very nice.
Thank you, everybody. First item is Mr. Pinio. Do we have a need for non-public session this evening?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. No need for public or for non-public this evening.
Thank you very much. And before we go to new business, I understand Mr. O'Brien has a 30-second comment he'd like to make.
It'll never happen in 30 seconds. You know that, Brent.
I know.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My colleagues in the Board of Selectmen will be glad that this is now one in the public, so I'm not droning all over them every other week. Several weeks ago, I told you folks out there through the Granite State News that we had not received any money from the governor's emergency broadband expansion fund. Senator Bradley was the person who called and gave us the bad news, gave me the bad news. Jeb arranged a phone call between myself and the state agency leading the CARES effort. I had a very brief chat with the head of that group. Following clarification requests, we learned on September 21st that we would actually get some CARES money here in Wolfeboro in support of our neighbors on Stoneham, Chick, and Bickford Road. The contract with the state was signed last week, October 8th. The state still requires us to make the deadline December 15th for the project in order to get any of the grant money. But rest assured, broadband service will be delivered even if the CARES funds dry up. Atlantic Broadband has promised to the town that they will complete the project with or without the CARES money. Atlantic Broadband is also committed to 17 new connections on Warren Sands Road, in addition to the 23 connections that they're going to put on the Stoneham Road area. They filed an application with our Municipal Electric Department for pole attachments. Construction will begin immediately. Other new news, we have a new cable entrant in the town. Charter Spectrum has agreed to build cable service for our neighbors in the Browns Ridge Road Village Corner area, despite their company not being awarded any CARES money. They're going to do this on their own nickel. Charter will be the first company to ever serve those residents over there with legitimate internet speeds. Our neighbors over there will be able to connect to the internet and not have to leave their houses, get in their cars, and go out on Route 16 and find an internet connection on their cell phones. We're also making an application to the New Hampshire Electric Co-op for pole attachments. Estimated time for construction is going to depend on the New Hampshire Electric Co-op getting the poles ready. And of course, we need to have a public hearing on their contract. But we'll hope to see all services turned up in the next 3 to 4 months. A lot of people worked hard on this. And the first person I want to thank is Jim Pinio. As our town manager, he was leading the parade. Our former town planner, Matt Sullivan, was the person who just put in a ton of hours, and so did Barry Muccio. And for the rest of the public, there was also members of this Board of Selectmen that all pitched in to help. I also thank Jeb Bradley and John McDonald. They helped open doors for us to get our case heard in Concord. And I thank Edie Damaris for signing a letter of support. And there's a special person that we probably all don't know, but some of us do. I want to thank Lynn Hinchy of Village Corner Road. It was her passion that drove us to this. I also thank Atlantic Broadband and Charter. They did a great job. We still got a lot of issues with those folks in terms of the service quality, but they stepped up and they did some great things. In summary, 70 homes in Wolfeboro will be able to buy high-speed service once the construction is complete. Another 20 homes in Ossipee will also be wired up. And that's going to result in about 8 miles of new fiber and coax that's going in, all thanks to some hard work by a bunch of people. We'll keep you posted on the construction. There'll be more information coming out about Atlantic Broadband and some other things we're doing in the town. But for now, I just wanted to take 30 seconds, as Brad says, to announce, I think, some good news for the town. Thank you, Brad, and thank you to the Board of Selectmen.
Paul, I want to thank you very much for spearheading this, along with Jim and Barry and Matt. All the work you guys have put into this, greatly appreciated. Even more so by the people that will be the recipients of the cable internet access to their homes. So, thank you. Appreciate
Thanks,
that.
Brad. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, next on the agenda is a discussion on the Pop Whalen Ice Arena, the COVID-19 protocols. Mr. Pena, do we have, is Christine, or are you gonna speak to us about this?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you can see, there are a significant number of stakeholders attending this meeting this evening. There's been a lot of discussion with regards to the Pop Whalen Ice Arena and COVID-19. Earlier today, Christine, along with Justin from Parks and Rec and Linda Murray from the Board of Selectmen, attended a conference call regarding operations in the COVID atmosphere relative to what we're trying to do. With that said, I think the best thing to do at this point is to have Linda and Paul probably discuss what they have observed, Linda, relative to what she observed during that meeting, at which point we can have Christine discuss her protocols along with Justin, and hopefully we can make a decision going forward as to what we're going to do with this situation.
Yes, I attended the conference call with the state task force on youth sports. And at the end, the town asked the question, are masks mandated on benches and between shifts? And the answer was yes. If you cannot get the players 6 feet apart. So Paul and I went over to the rink today with Christine and Kathy Rankin and took a look at seeing whether we could get the 6 feet, where it was, whether we needed masks, and Christine was going to follow up with the fire department to make sure there was enough space to put chairs. I understand putting kids 6 feet apart, keeping them 6 feet apart is going to be difficult in the younger ages, but hopefully that's a compromise for us, and that if we're able to put up chairs, it would be easier for them. Paul, do you have anything you want to say about our tour in terms of the bench?
Yeah, so I think Linda, you nailed it. I mean, there's 3 issues that I've heard repeatedly. The first one is masks. And as Linda mentioned, I've read all the protocols. My son happens to be president of Dover Youth Hockey, so I've listened to him as they've struggled with their protocol. We walked around the rink today, and to the extent that people on the ice are playing hockey and come off the ice, they can stay masked off as long as they're sitting 6 feet apart from each other. So I think, Christine, you owed us an answer whether the fire department thought we had any issues with blocking the door. I guess the rules we're hearing is if somebody's in the penalty box, they can have a mask off, but another person comes in, even if they have a mask on, they have to wear a mask. So we're trying to find a way to keep the kids safe. We're trying to find a way to not have them be subject to any stuff that's inconsistent with the state policy. So that's kind of what I did. We'll talk about the other two items, Linda, maybe in a bit. But Christine, do you have an update for us from the fire department?
Yes, so the fire department came over and they looked at the space. What we decided to do was take the bench. So you have the bench. We marked spots on the bench to have that 6 foot distance. And then we moved it along the outside of the rink, so right against the glass. So usually on the other side, you have spectators where they're against the glass. We kind of went down on the side where typically the hockey players, that's where they enter. So there is enough room. We're going to mark it like we did for spectators on that side. And the fire department did not see any issue with just putting folding chairs there. That can be easily removed when we're not utilizing that. So I think we're good for that.
Standing across, if you're looking across at the benches, there's 2 fire exits on either side. We want to make sure that the fire department gave us a thumbs up and said we weren't going to block any fire exits. So that's that. So I don't know where we had somebody who wrote a letter to a whole bunch of people. I don't know whether we want to, Jim, we want to talk with those folks and get some input on this.
Let me say one thing, and I did send a request to Greg Gemmel of Brewster, and he let me know that Brewster is going to come fully dressed, wearing masks, in the building, on the bench, and on the ice. So Brewster's fine. I did do the same thing for Aaron House, and I want to thank him. He was in his list. They had put out the idea of taking a look at whether we could space them 6 feet apart. So that helped lead us to it. It's helpful when we get positive input back from users, and that was very helpful to me.
Yep. So
Linda, I have a quick question. Is if the kids playing hockey there, if they have the face shield on, does that qualify as wearing a mask?
No, they clarified that. They clarified if you have the shield, they really want something that covers the nose and the mouth. They made it also very clear, you do not have to wear a mask on the ice. That was clear. What they're really pushing is they want people either 6 feet apart or with a mask on. And they repeated that numerous times.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the board? And we'll kind of, so it's not really a public hearing, but we're going to open it up to anybody that has some input for us on this from the public here or participants in the program. So.
Yeah, we're going to just touch on all the issues and close them out all at once, or are we going to go through these one at a time? Victor from Back Bay and from the Men's League.
Okay, Victor.
Personal opinion, I'd like to do them one at a time so we don't conflate things.
Okay, so I'm going to start off by saying that we were asked and we hit up Christine and needed these things so that we could post our COVID guidelines by mid-August so we could be in compliance with the rest of the state. We received these on Monday, October 5th. So I'm going to start off saying that this should have been managed, 7-8 weeks ago, and which is kind of why you've got, you've drawn a crowd, first of all. So with the masks, we understand that there was a meeting today. We were part of it. New Hampshire Hockey was part of it. I spent a ton of time with DHHS, with Linda Murray with the state's reopening task, Rule with the governor's reopening task force today to go over this. As far as your mask policy and the 6-foot spacing on the bench, that's something that we would find suitable.
Okay, thank you, Victor.
Okay.
Anybody else have any comments on the mask protocols that we're talking about? Or the 6-foot
I would
spacing?
just like to make a comment, if you don't mind, Chairman.
Could you just identify yourself, please?
Yep. I'm Justin Chafee with Parks and Rec.
Oh, yeah, okay, Jeff.
I just want to make it known, we did send the protocols multiple times. I have email proof. The reason they got the final document on Monday was because we had been working with them to make changes. I have an email right in front of me from September 4th. That was a document sent to Back Bay and other users. I know Aaron has been great with putting input into the protocol we put out there. It was also presented at the Selectmen's meeting earlier in September. So I just want to make it clear we did not give them the protocol on Monday. And that's all.
Thanks, Justin.
So I
And the
want to
board
clarify that the
approved it.
original, the original round of protocol was so much worse than the current one that we asked for a meeting, which took about 10 days to get. But it had, the previous one essentially had us rotating kids from out of town through the home locker rooms. And there were other items in there that were so egregiously against the COVID normal flow of common sense and in violation of the guideline that it was frightful. The first round was frightful, and it was not in line with anything else anyone else in the state was doing, and it lacked a total bound of one sense of common sense. And so that's why, yes, there was an original round that was real ugly, and when it came back this time, it was less ugly, but still not doable.
I think one thing to kind of keep in mind too is that, this has been a kind of a living document that we've been evolving with here and stuff. Is the program started, and obviously we've just had news coming out from the Exeter Arena. I believe they've had some COVID hits down there and stuff from once the program started up. So it kind of get everybody up to really take a look at what's going on and kind of see where we're going here. So I think the important thing here is to really deal with where we're at right now and moving forward with these protocols and keeping, the main thing is to keep the kids safe, keep everybody safe here. So that's where I want to kind of, head along with this conversation and this, document that we're going to develop here. So, you guys have any? Linda, you were about to say something a little bit earlier. Or?
I was just going to say that I went back and checked, and it was the first meeting in September, the Board of Selectmen passed these protocols, and that we went through them and paid attention to what was written in there. And we were using the guidelines from the state as we struggled through defining what we wanted. So I think that there was a good effort on the town to take the state guidelines and put it in some kind of format.
Okay. Any other comments or questions regarding this part of the procedure here, the documents? Okay, what would we like to move on to next for for criteria here?
I think the
The second
biggest
one,
we deal with now are whether people can get dressed at the rink or whether we're going to ask them to come dressed.
yeah, that was the second one that appears to show up is dress outside, not outside, and if I read the New Hampshire Safer at Home protocol, it says prefer you come dressed unless there are locker rooms available. Here's where I, again, from my son's point of view, he runs presides over the Dover program. What they did down in Dover is first they check to see if their locker rooms are conditioned space. In other words, they can draw air out of the locker room. They have 12 locker rooms down there. They've closed one sheet of ice. They opened the second, they only have one sheet of ice open. Every team, they went in and they measured the benches. Every team gets a place to sit, one person every 6 feet. And they keep all locker room doors open. Any coach who walks in, anybody who, well, they're not supposed to, anybody who walks into that locker room must be masked. The kids can go in, I guess, and be unmasked, but nobody else can go in those locker rooms when they leave. But the deal is the rooms are conditioned, meaning they pull the air out and they have to keep the doors open. And they can only sit 6 kids in a room. The challenge I think I had as I walked around through Pop Whalen is, number one, is the locker rooms aren't conditioned. There's no way to get air out of those things. And at least the ones over, across the ice from the benches appear to be, I didn't take measurements. I don't know, Victor, maybe they're like 10 by 10, if that. And I think those are a little bit, at least from my point of view, I think they're a little tight. Anyway, that's kind of my input on the locker room thing.
Yeah, those are 11 by 19.
11 by 19. Yeah. You can tell I never did well in math.
It sounds like at least the Brewster team has agreed to come fully dressed. And we don't know about the Kingswood team yet. Is that right, Linda? Wait to hear from them still? Or?
Brewster is clear. They're done. They have their protocol. They're a boarding school. Obviously, they're stricter to keep their campus. Their number one goal is to make sure that they can keep their education going. So I got a text from Craig Gemmel saying that. I think we have the head of the director of Kingswood High School. I don't know what his feelings are. And he did write me the areas where he was concerned. I'm not sure that if the kids are not allowed to dress inside, that they will be able to use the space, but I would pass it over to the head of Kingswood Athletic Department, Aaron House.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Yeah, we have our concerns about not being able to dress in the facility. I mean, I had my had my son attend several hockey camps this summer, and there's nothing like getting dressed outside in July, going into a hockey camp, and the parents are there, and everyone's kind of, manning the windows of cars if they have to dress down in their undergarments, and people are just kind of looking out for their own when they when they're dressing outside in that type of situation. My concern is when we're talking about late December, January, February, and you've got those winter winds up there, asking 8, 9-year-olds, possibly teenagers at Kingswood to be changing in the parking lot. It's going to present challenges, multiple different types of challenges. So, I've coached hockey for over 20 years, depending on the spatial situation. Again, I haven't seen the facility mapped out as far as where people can sit or possibly change. I know kids can get dressed in 15 minutes, and I think the time frame is right on point. I think that Christine and Justin got that right, 15 minutes in and 15 minutes out. You got to get in and you got to get out. That whole message. So the notion of the kids sitting in the locker room for an hour and 15 minutes before their ice slot, listening to music and maybe eating pre-practice snacks, and those days are gone. But the ability for them to have a nice warm place to be able to dress, have their masks on, not necessarily in the locker room. I mean, I see those benches along the walkway there. If you pull those up to the rubber mats and space those out, I feel like there's a way to get the kids in and out safely. You know, Brewster, as Linda had said, they're a unique private school. I mean, I imagine I also know that they have to wear masks. I think it's required by their hockey league. So I don't think they had much of an option on that one. But anyways, as far as the dressing and the facilities, if I had to think outside the box, I'm not going to have our kids getting dressed in the parking lot. I probably will contact our transportation department. I'll have the kids dressed somewhere at school, ride them over there on separate buses and have them take the facility that way. I just can't have high school kids changing in the parking lot. I got teenage girls on our girls team. All it takes is, one possible issue, and then I've got a whole can of worms to possibly address on my end. So that's our stance is we won't be getting dressed in the parking lot for high school kids. We're hoping that we could find a way to maybe get inside. I understand what Justin said in previous emails, that this is, first shot out of the gate, and we can change these as we go along. But yeah, for us, for the high school anyways, we can't do that. We can't change in the parking lot.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Anybody from the youth hockey organization want to speak on this one too? Or?
Sure. So similar to Aaron, so we're in a situation, we've told Christine basically right up from the start, any of the youth players, we would be happy to have come fully dressed or mostly dressed. We're talking about 12 and under. When we get into teenagers, we have kids all the way up to 18 that drive their own cars, things like that. And we have boys, a mix of teams of boys and girls. There is no way that we're going to have teenage boys and girls getting dressed in a parking lot in a car. And we would not support this in any way, shape, or form. And the same would come from the men's hockey league too. So it's all it's going to take is one person clowning around with a camera on their phone. And we've spoken with New Hampshire Hockey, USA Hockey about it. And they don't write liability policies big enough for nonsense like this.
We also have an issue with the storage of the bags, and you do the benches. If they're sitting outside, putting their clothes on in benches, they're as visible as the parking lot. So we don't have the capacity to get them inside the locker rooms. And we also have the issue that equipment, bags, and backpacks shall be placed 6 feet apart. So if the bags come in, we've got to store these bags 6 feet apart. And if they're on the benches, they're going to have to be stored out there. The ones that are in the locker room are there, and we're just going to have a clutter of bags, it seems to me. So that's the other issue. And that's in the guidelines from the Safer at Home Amateur and Youth Sports. And it's number 9.
Yeah, we've talked to every other rink in the state, including my conversation today with the state's reopening committee, and asked specifically about bags. And they basically are like, what are you talking about? So everyone you talk to, every rink, this is the only rink in the state that says you can't bring in a bag. So I did ask the question specifically. So the option is, so let's roll out the option. So people walk in with their shoes. We're supposed to change in the bleacher area where the last team changed their stuff, because we don't have any locker rooms where people have whatever on the bottom of their shoe. You're supposed to carry in your stuff. Hope you don't drop it on the way in. We know the floor inside Pop Whalen is wet 90% of the time, and some sort of whatever's growing there is growing there. And so we're supposed to place all of our equipment, whatever we carry in that is not pre-dressed, on a wet floor, and then we're supposed to put it on, and then we're supposed to take it off and repeat the process when we leave. So that's what the town is recommending?
issue is how we store those bags. And that's why we said no bags. So if we can come up with a way to get all the bags 6 feet apart and not in the way of where people are walking, then bags can come in. But I don't see how that's going to be done. You can't get benches lined up. You're going to have people's bags all out into the main area. And what has happened to the people who need to go to the bathroom or the people who want to come in if we use that area in the warm area? So I can't see
What have we
it.
done with these bags for the last 25 years?
But you've been in the locker room. The locker room, they will not hold all the bags. They have to be 6 feet
What if
apart.
we use,
By the regulations.
what if we use, I mean, if a team has the 2 small locker rooms, you should fit 12 players. It's 19 by 11. You get 3 on each side. You can get 6 to 7 players in there if you put a seat on the end. So you should get 7 people in the small locker room, 6 to 7. Our teams are typically no larger than 10 or 11, 10, 12 kids at the most anyway. So if even if we're using the small locker rooms, that would be a team. So if they use lockers 3 and 4, the next team that would come in would use lockers 5 or 1 and 2. I'm getting the numbers mixed up, but if they used 1 and 2, the next team that would come in would use lockers 3 and 4. And if somebody didn't feel comfortable, they would go into the overflow or could change in the bleachers. But if they felt that it was too crowded, but that's how other rinks are managing, is they're doing a rotation, which is what we recommended, I think, in our document that we sent on July 10th to you guys.
Can I speak?
Brad, Christine wants to speak.
Oh, yes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. So I think in the original document that we created, looking at the space of Pop Whalen. So what we did is we looked at the CDC guidelines, we looked at what the governor said, and then we looked at all the rinks surrounding us to kind of get a feel for what's happening. The good news is we were opening up later than other rinks, so we got to see what worked and what didn't work. Originally, we had said no locker rooms, but then we went back. We actually had a discussion with Back Bay and Kingswood and kind of got a feel for what they were saying, and we tried to make it work. So we then said, okay, yeah, we can do locker rooms, definitely do locker rooms so they have a place, because we were saying when they come in, we don't want everyone just stopping right in the lobby because no one's supposed to be in the lobby putting on their ice skates. So we did compromise with that to say, yes, they should be put in a locker room. We didn't say they had to get changed on the benches. We're also thinking in the mindset that we're allowing 1 spectator per child. So we have marked the benches for the spectators. So we were truly trying to keep the spectators away from the players. So we have 2 different things we're trying to manage. So we did say, fine, we'll use locker rooms, but it did say, and most rinks are saying, it's preferred they come mostly dressed. I can see in situations that some might have difficulties when they're driving. As I said from the beginning, this is a working document. So we're not talking about January, February, March. We're talking about today, because things could change every day. And that is what's happening. Is we just had a meeting today because things aren't being followed, or there's some misconceptions, and we had to hear what's working and what's not working and who's following things and who isn't. So our concern with the bags is those are pretty big bags that now we're trying to manage the small locker rooms and the big locker rooms. We were trying to keep so people were in the big locker rooms, because then you have your coach who can talk to everyone. We did have him walk through a couple weeks ago. We heard everything. And so we did talk about flip-flopping locker rooms. That made sense for us. So that's what we're going to do. So we have been working to try to come up with solutions to everything. There's just some things that we feel for Pop Whalen is kind of difficult to manage with the space and having the spectators and then everyone plus bags and this and that. We're trying to make it so it flows pretty quick. The real point of it is we're in for hockey and then we're out, which just come play hockey and leave as soon as you can, so we can kind of keep everyone safe.
All right. Any other comments on?
Yeah, just one thing I think from the bag perspective, I think, you know, if we're having people come in, whether they're carrying their skates, their helmets, their gloves, mouth guard, water bottle, in two arms, and then sitting down at their area where they're supposed to be 6 feet apart from the next player, or they're carrying all those things inside a hockey bag and putting themselves down 6 feet from another player. I'm just wondering if it makes sense to really look at the rink again and see where we're going to be putting, you know, possibly up to 30 kids per ice practice, to see what we have in there. It sounds like today the benches were spaced out possibly to not have to wear masks. I think that's great. But I'm wondering if the same could be done with the potential of allowing bags in. Just a comment.
Brad?
Linda?
Yeah, if we can, they bring smaller bags in, so they put all their undergarments, maybe they put their pants on. Then they only have shin guards and, you know, a few pads. Seems like you should be able to put on your shoulder pads, you know, not put the last bit on. So what I'm saying is, can we make the bags smaller to make more room for more bags? Because I have a grandson who plays every coat, a big, huge bag that is handful maybe. So maybe we should look at, could we get smaller bags? Therefore fit them in?
Yeah, Paul?
Thanks, Brad. The issue that got solved today, as Aaron pointed out, is we figured out a way to space people out. And that's the same strategy, I think, that's being teed up here with bags. My personal concern is stuffing kids in those traveling team locker rooms. You walk out of that locker room and you're facing the ice. If you turn hard left, there's a bunch of stuff along the wall. And I think I asked Christine to think about, would that be curtained off in some way so that people could go in, sit inside that area and change, leave their bags there. As it relates to bag size, Linda, I don't know. I used to have a big hockey bag and it was always fun to throw my stuff, but I don't know whether we're going to get kids to make a smaller bag. But the question is there a way coming out of those traveling team rooms to the left, not where your office is, but to the other side of that? Is there a way to curtain that off so that so the kids could go in there and use that? Again, the objective is space people out and create some distance between people so that we can not create a situation where we have them accidentally stuffed in a small locker room.
Okay, any other comments about the dressing the locker rooms and the bags and stuff? Okay, what would be our third item on the list here to address? Or did we cover them all?
The third one that I heard, maybe four, but I think the third one that I heard was live barn. Concern that live barn should not be shown for hockey practices. You know, I guess the town wants to make sure that we have live barn for our own purposes to send out to Zamboni, but sending it out for public consumption during hockey practices, I don't see an issue with not showing it during hockey practice. I think we'd all want to have the public see full games over live barn, but during hockey practices, I think would be, at least that's where I was on that. I'm fine.
And that's where I am. I don't see any problem turning off live barn for practices. It seems to make sense. People are comfortable with that.
Was that a big part? Was that I think Victor, you had that, and I don't know if Aaron, you had that one as an issue. You have those. Is that okay with you guys?
Yeah, we ended up, we've asked for this multiple times. I'm not sure why it keeps showing up as a requirement. So Back Bay has a problem with it. We've had a problem with it for a couple of years. We've had to retain attorneys because we had issues with USA Hockey because they monitor everything that goes on at the rink. They can look in. Anyone who has a live barn account can watch what's going on at any time. And so we just simply said, hey, can you turn that off? And the answer was a flat no.
Turn it off for
So
practices or turn it off as a general proposition? Turn it off always or turn it off for practices?
turn it off for practices. We're fine with games. That's the purpose of live barn is games, but it's, do you want other teams scouting your team? I mean, it can be used again by anyone that has, there's multiple reasons, but we're an absolute no on live barn, have been since we recommended not getting it initially. So it got purchased anyway. So now we're still wrestling it.
Aaron?
For Kingswood, yeah, we love to have it on for the games, but not for practices. Mostly just for scouting purposes. We don't want our opponents to see us, what we're doing. So
That seems fair. It seems
Yep.
just seems very fair.
Yep, it's reasonable.
Yep, I agree.
Steve?
Can I say something, Brad?
Sure, go ahead, Christine.
Thank you. We actually just installed Live Barn last year. So last year we did shut it off for Back Bay practices per their request. The only reason why we were saying it should be on this year is because we are limiting capacity of the rink to spectators to 27 people. So, and also the fact that typically a lot of parents do sometimes watch practices in the lobby area, which now it cannot be. So they will be standing in the cold rink. So we were suggesting that it stay on for that. It's fine though if they don't want it on for practices, but that was the reason why we were trying to have it. So parents, because you can only bring one spectator per child, if grandparents wanted to see practices or whatever, they would be able to watch it if they had a subscription. We're fine with that. I will say though, it is super important for us. Part of the thing is when we set it up, we put all the times in and stuff, but last minute changes, which what happens a few times last year, kind of impact the schedule. So where there was a practice and then something got moved to a game or something, if we didn't remember it or see that it was changed quickly, we just have to make sure we go in there. So it will just require us to be in constant communication on changes and realizing it does take a little time to update it, but we're fine with that.
Was there another issue? So that was the third one I heard. I'm sure there's another one. Was there another third issue?
I think the only thing is that Christine today has a camera which does the check-in electronically, which will allow the town to have that information digitally in case there is some kind of a COVID event and at the rink, and so it can be sent immediately to the state. And that's my understanding how we're going to handle it. Am I correct, Christine?
Yes, so it's a system where you can actually, there's a QR code, you can log in, you answer the questions that they ask you, and then it will give you a QR code that you bring to the rink that then is scanned. When it's scanned, it will say, okay, ready for your temperature. And then you'll go up to it either by wrist or by your forehead, get your temperature, and then it will allow you to proceed if you were all set in the rink. And it actually, I was on a call last week with a bunch of rinks in New Hampshire, and it's something that is a lot of rinks are signing up for it because it's a way for contact tracing, make it pretty easy for people. So everyone who's in the rink will know, and we can also utilize it for staff as well.
So was there another third issue?
That would make it a fourth issue, Paul.
Oh, I wasn't good at math. Is there a fourth issue?
I think the only issue we haven't resolved is the dress bag issue. And I think we were thinking about maybe we need to go back on another tour to look to see if we can get some of those bags in. But I think it will be better for all of us if people can come dressed as much as they can.
This is Valerie Murray. So if someone is going to bring a bag to the arena, then, you know, is there going to be someone scouting out front that you can't carry it in?
We'll be on time. We'll be.
I mean,
Christine, do you have a problem?
It seems completely impossible not to be bringing some bag in.
So to answer your question, Valerie, somebody will be standing at the door at all times because the doors will remain locked. That's how people will enter. I think initially when we were talking about no bags and doing this, we're really looking for kids per se. We're looking at, you have 15 minutes in, 15 minutes out, you need to be dressed and ready. It's something we can examine, but again, like we were saying, looking at the pop wheel and spacing, and if we're saying bags have to be 6 feet apart, people have to be 6 feet apart, I just don't see how that's doable. So it's something that, you know, if Linda and Paul want to come back over and maybe Aaron House and we look at it and see if there's a way to manage it, then absolutely.
Well, maybe for small kids, you know, when you have 30 kids in there, like they said, you know, it's not doable. But when you have, you know, 15 adults that can be able to monitor and separate themselves, it's just, you can't not have a bag. And like someone else said, what are we going to do? Be throwing our stuffs on the floor?
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous.
It makes no sense. Yeah, see, Valerie, I think makes a good point. The problem we have is if it's a small amount of participants, we can sort it out, but it doesn't scale. That's the problem, is it doesn't scale. And again, I think this idea of, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but this, where we may have an opportunity for a solution is whether you're facing the ice from the travel lockers or whether you're facing the travel lockers from the ice to the right, may be an opportunity to put up a curtain so that people can at least get spacing. I'm not a doctor.
Well, between locker rooms and the benches, and there's plenty of space for people to separate. You can put 20 feet between you.
Yeah. Yeah, that may be the place to go. I think, and I heard this from Kathy Rankin today, we might just want to be a little sensitive about getting down to where the Zamboni comes in and out for obvious reasons. But it strikes me that we might have an opportunity to solve the problem by just curtaining some portion of the rink and having people come and go in that and go in those areas. That's a Unfortunately, the Pop Whalen Rink Ice Arena was not configured for a COVID event. And I think that's the challenge we're dealing with now.
So I guess the question I have to put out here then is, obviously, I think these programs are starting up and running now. Do we need to really address these and make a recommendation on them, you know, like this evening, or can we do it this week at some point, or, you know, what's our time frame to really kind of get these things on paper here, I guess?
Hi, Vic, this is Kurt DeVilder. Vic had to step out of the meeting. I'm the vice president of Back Bay Hockey. We've taken a vote to cease operations at the rink, and that includes payment, obviously, for our scheduled ice time until these issues that we've discussed tonight are resolved appropriately. That was last week. So tonight would really be the night. We can't begin our season unless these issues are resolved.
Okay.
Thanks, Kurt.
And the same is true of the men's league has been canceled as well, so they won't be renting their ice until this is resolved.
Okay.
So we need to have a solution for Aaron, and we need to have a solution for Brewster, PDQ, and for children. Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Okay. Good.
we don't I don't know whether the bench and no mask works. We have no feedback on that, whether that works for Back Bay. If that doesn't work for Back Bay, that's a closer, because that's the governor's rules. And
I think,
have asked.
So the masks anywhere in the facility except on the bench is fine. Spacing out on the benches, that makes sense.
Okay.
We need to have the dressing outdoors. That's a non-starter. That doesn't work, at least for the, like Vic said, over 12 years of age. So that would be bantams, midgets, high school players, men's league players. And so the bags would come in, and really, we only have like 10 kids on a team at the youth level. So spacing them out, even in those little locker rooms, if you could put 4 on a side, that's 8 in a room, and use part of the next door little locker room. So one team can use 2. That resolves the issue. Maybe even for the high school teams, depending on the size. And then, so that's the bag issue that needs to get rectified. Whether you hang some tarps and divide the building up or whatever, there is a solution to that. It's a very large building. And then the live barn, it seems like we worked that out.
So if I could,
bags in locker room is the issue. Okay.
yeah.
Well, if the kids are going to be 6 feet apart, the bags can be 6 feet apart.
And so Christina asked if I'd be willing to come back to the rink, and of course, I live 5 minutes away. I'll bring a tape measure, and I think we're willing to help on all of this. We realize that the rink is not all the other rinks in the state. It is unique, but like Kurt said, given the roster size of Back Bay, and I am the athletic director at Kingswood, so I am interested in talking about the high school team, but I also am on deck to coach 2 Back Bay teams this season, my own kids teams. And both of my teams, one has 10 players and one has 13. And I've been in Pop Whalen enough to know that, I can space those kids out, and there really shouldn't be more than, another team in the rink with me at any given ice slot time. So I would think, 25 kids, 30 kids, if we use every nook and cranny, we should not only be able to space them out, we should be able to have bags in the facility. Just, again, my opinion.
And I guess we have to also then look what happens when we get games. That's the other bag issue. When we go and take a look at, I'd like to go with you. I'd like to look at that. But we are going to need to take a look at, how we move 2 different teams through there and their bags.
The other thing, and I don't want to get back into the history of this, but I think back as far as, I think it was May, that Victor sent out a proposal for policies. Back Bay, we want to, be included in this process more than we have been. It's been very frustrating. So if there's going to be something going on, please keep us in the loop on it, and at least give an indication that we're being heard.
Sounds fair. I guess one question I have is on timing between games, especially at the youth hockey groups, because I'm assuming you have a game of 2 teams and there's another one scheduled shortly after that. I don't know if they do 2 or 3 in a row, whatever. We have the ability to space the timing out so that the 2 teams that are playing have an opportunity to clear the bench, clear the locker room, get this stuff out before the other 2 teams even arrive to the arena, so we don't have that crossing of the 4 teams in there at one time. Is that been raised as an issue, or is that something we are addressing or looking at?
We have already handled that, Brad. We do have enough leeway time in there to give a half an hour gap in between for us to clean everything that has been touched and sanitized, everything until the next group comes in. So we have already addressed that.
Awesome. Thank you, Christine.
Yep.
Hey, I had a question that was never listed on the protocols about the plans for storage of masks for all these players? Is everyone bringing in their own paper bags with their names on it? They're carrying them in with them and then putting them somewhere on the ice? What's the plan for that?
I think most hockey teams, from what I've seen, and players are wearing the gaiters that you pull up over your face and nose, and that way they don't have to store them.
Those aren't even effective.
Yeah, I don't even necessarily agree with the mask things. It's just from a state level, we don't have a choice on that. Unfortunately, our hands are tied there. That is what a lot of the players and coaches are wearing are the gaiters that you pull up over.
I don't think that was
the gaiters that don't prevent transmission. Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Great.
So the ask, if I understand correctly, Brad, the ask on right now is, might we get together quickly at the rink, take a walk through? Back Bay wants to be involved. Aaron is willing to help. Thank you, Aaron, for that. And see if we can sort out 3 issues. Number 1 is, can we find a way to curtain the place up so that we can have people separated in an appropriate way so they can dress and leave their bag? Number 2 is, can we make sure that we can cycle kids in and out of the locker rooms in a way that is safe, that we're not going to create any downstream issue? And I think we nailed the 3rd one, which is the come dress, because if we can fix those 2, the come dress thing gets solved all by itself.
Mm-hmm.
2 things to kind of walk the rink, see if we can curtain it up and do something around that. Is that what I heard? You guys?
That's good from Back Bay. Again, though, the issue is we have tabled our season because of this issue. So
no, I got that. We heard that. Now we heard that. Thank you.
We're losing days here.
Okay, thank you. We heard that.
Yeah, I agree, Paul. I think those are the main areas we need to address. And also, I think the sooner the better for everybody involved. So I guess my question is if we can get the people we need to together to go up there to look at these different issues, spacing. If there's an area where, like I say, we can screen off to give us more area to separate everybody and solve the bag situation. I think that takes care of the dressing ahead of time, like you said. And it sounds like the live barn thing has been kind of resolved anyway. And Christine has already kind of done the spacing for especially the youth leagues as far as the crossing of extra teams in there at the same time. So that's the way I understand it here.
And then the question is, when do we just physically go do that?
I'm available tomorrow.
Go ahead. Linda, go ahead.
My understanding is what we're going to solve. We're going to solve them coming in with their bags with a place to change. Am I correct? That's what we're looking at doing.
I think that's one of that's probably the main issue.
There are some people out on the internet who are all worried about the bags, and I want to make sure they understand that finding a place to dress and what we're going to do, we're going to try to solve the dressing and the bags together.
Right.
And I am fine tomorrow after 12:30. And we then have a Board of Selectmen's meeting on Thursday, the 15th. Or if we can't do it then, we have another one on Monday, the 19th.
Right.
I'm okay tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
We can have a rep there tomorrow at 1.
How about Aaron?
1 p.m. Kingswood will be there.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds like a done deal. Get everybody together there at 1 o'clock.
Focus on tomorrow. I mean, so just so we're clear, that's it. And, so that we can bound this. We need to focus on how to curtain the place up if possible, so that we can alleviate the concern over coming dressed or not dressed. Well, coming dressed, not the undressed. Placement of bags and rotating of the kids so that we don't have anybody bumping into each other and sharing what they shouldn't share. 1 o'clock.
Okay. That sounds good. 1 o'clock tomorrow. It sounds like everybody will meet up there and go through this and see if we can to conclusion with this, so.
I'm assuming
Anything
Christine
else?
can be there. You okay? Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for helping us through this. We appreciate it.
Okay, I'd like to thank everybody for participating in this. I think it was good. We got everything out there, the issues that everybody has, so we can work forward and move on with this, so.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
If we have nothing else on this, we'll move on with our budget hearings tonight.
Oh, goody.
Mr. Chairman, so first budget up this evening is going to be Municipal Electric. One item that I do want to share with the public at this point, I'm going to share the screen so the public can see. We have taken and placed, in the process of placing budgets on the town webpage. So I'm going to make this viewable to people. So if you go to the town webpage and you scroll down under the Citizens Action Center at the bottom, there's the proposed budgets for 2021. And you click on that and the budgets will be uploaded over time in this section for the proposed budgets so that citizens are able to see the budgets. And we are also going to be building the budget books to put at Town Hall and the library, but it is also going to be available online. With that said, Barry's here to discuss his budget for Municipal Electric. Couple items, as you recall, the healthcare is been removed from the individual budgets, but you'll see under the cover sheet that Barry has a line item called Personnel Administration. That is relative to the healthcare expenses associated with Municipal Electric, being that that is an enterprise fund. Further, as we go through the budgets, I'd like to thank Barry. He did an outstanding job as usual with his staff building the budget. And with that said, I believe he is here this evening and we can go ahead and get into the budget.
Thank you, Mr. Pinio. Hi, Barry.
Good evening. I had
Okay,
to follow
so
hockey night though.
So the first one we're going to look at on our agenda is the administration. Everybody on the page for administration? So we'll start with the 100 series.
Is that?
No questions? We'll go on to the 200 series. And then 300 series. I guess,
Yes.
Barry, you feel the consultants line is, you can do, obviously do.
Yeah, so that's like a non-reoccurring, well, it's like reoccurring every 5 years where we negotiated for purchase power. So that's why it was up last year. We budgeted more for that, those contractual. You'll see the same thing in legal.
All right.
So those sort of dip back down to, normal levels.
Also, anything else on 300 series?
They have their mic on here.
Somebody set a mic on.
Jake Stanley is driving.
Jay, could you mute your mic for us, please?
I think that was it.
That was it.
I think
Okay.
Jim, I think Jim-
Anything else on the 300 series? 400 series? So your electricity rate went down. Did you sign a good contract with the electric company there, Barry?
Well, this is the electric at our facility itself. And as you recall, we had a project to do a solar installation to net meter our usage. So we would anticipate next year. Because it's year one, I would actually anticipate to go down more than this. It should be, but we didn't feel comfortable without seeing some history with that. So that's why we should be able to pretty close to completely offset our usage in the upcoming year. Entirely.
Nice. Anybody have anything else on the 400 series? 500 series?
I have one thing on the 400 series. This budget will be updated with administrative costs after we go through and make all the changes. So this isn't final.
That's correct.
Okay.
The 500 series? 600 series? 700 series? 800 series?
If I could just note, you're going to see that, and it'll get asked, I'm sure, at the budget committee level, but professional development, travel and meetings and all of our lines, all of our 3 budgets, because of the year we had with COVID, you know, many of those got canceled. So there's not many expenditures this year. We hope to be back to normal
at
some point.
We've seen a lot of that so far, so.
Yeah, that's anybody who does run rate analysis on budgets is gonna have an aberrant for 2020. It's kind of been a weird year.
Barry, does that also hold for programs? You're just about at half.
Yeah, no, programs is payment in lieu of taxes. So programs, the only reason that's half is because the remaining 50%.
Oh, okay. In lieu of tax. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
I don't believe it's been pulled yet. Would that be correct, Jim? It probably just needs to be the second half of the year. We'll have to get.
Yeah, I believe you are correct, Barry.
Roger that, Barry.
Okay, we'll move on to distribution.
What do you think of that 500 grand in administrative cost allocation? That's a good number.
Yeah, I fought that last year. I'm over that now. I'm over that. Thanks for bringing that up again, though. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Really good.
Okay, 100 series?
500 grand.
200 series? 300 series?
300 series on outside services. Is that up because of the barge?
You know, it seems like the last 3 years we've had to do barge work on the islands, and you know, between that and just getting the equipment out there back and forth, it's been a major expense. I actually added a line item for that this year.
Okay.
If it doesn't get spent out of that specific line, it will always be applied towards tree trimming, as I've continued to try to build our tree trimming. Like I said in the past, 66% of our outages are all tree related.
Barry, on that subject, unrelated to your budget, but do the folks who are hanging stuff on your poles have conversations with you about tree trimming requirements, needs, wants, and desires?
So because they're 50% ownership with the phone company, they contribute I think it's 25% of our total trimming budget. The other parties, they're on their own. If they need trimming for the stuff that's lower, they have to do that, hire their own contractor for that. So they don't reimburse us for trimming, only the phone company.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, 400 series.
You see vehicle maintenance is up here. It's just because historically that's sort of what we've been spending. We won't have our new line truck for 10 months, so we still have to maintain our old one until that time.
And this is an area townwide that we're seeing increases is our vehicle maintenance line. I think it has to do with cost of repairs going up, aging fleet, and department heads taking very good care of their equipment.
And one of the things I can tell you with our trucks, a lot of the things that we have worked on with the technology advancements in the equipment, it's nothing I can have fixed down at the town, the public works garage. I have to send it out for more specialty type service, people that are rated for those type of repairs. So, as you know, it's costly.
Mm-hmm. Okay, 600 series. $700 series.
$740 machine and equipment. You've only spent about $2,000. Are you going to have some more coming in there before the end of the year? That looks like time to get.
I question the validity of that number as well, Linda. There's more than that spent. Some of all the bills may not have cycled through yet. We certainly will. That expenditure will be close to full here by the end of the budget season.
$800 series.
Again, here you see how we have an abundance of unspended money here from that, as well as professional development.
900 series.
I guess the bond kicked in.
The bond kicked in. This is the majority of our increase in our budget right here.
Boom. Yeah, kaboom.
About 170 on.
Well, 210,000.
Yeah.
Right.
The rest of it's in interest.
Yep.
So it's,
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, we knew that. And then
And that's already calculated in the fee. That's already calculated in your rate.
Correct. Yeah, that's not going to require a rate adjustment.
It's already calculated in the rate, Barry. That keeps the net margin, net surplus, whatever you call it, constant, the same.
The unexpended fund balance, because we've had, we sort of, I try to level it. Some years we'll have, hits on it. Some years we won't. And so, we shoot the magic number of building 350 a year, knowing that over a 15-year run, that's what it'll take to fund us sort of at a flat level and keep our rate.
That 210,000 is not going to put a dent in that 350. It's kind of leveling itself, right?
No, yeah, exactly. That was taken into consideration, knowing that we had a 10-year plan on our projects.
Yep. Okay. Got it.
When we set the rates for them. Now, we have to have that discussion, at some point of how we want to deal with that remaining, funds we'll need, and how we want to fund that. But that may be for another day.
Yep.
And then as well, just keep in mind, because we are 2021 will be the last year of our purchase power contract, and we've entered into an extension which was favorable. I'll do another rate analysis at some point next year to adjust the rates accordingly.
Thank you, Barry.
Okay, we'll move on to generation next. 100 series. $200 series. $300 series. Do we anticipate spending anything on consultants this year, Barry, on this line item, 311?
This is a hit or miss. This is for our oil abatement and monitoring down at around the power plant property. I hope to use this money to do an assessment of the interior of the plant to help out with the Girl Scout project there to see if we can get something going. So this year we'll use that money for that. Next year, I know it's one of those years, if you have a wellhead that gets broke, you have to replace it. That happens every couple of years, so I always leave an allowance in there. But I thought because we're in pretty good shape this year, that might be a good donation to assist with the plant project of what we're going to do, and we'll expend that. That's about the cost, I guess, for material analysis of hazardous material within the building. So,
okay.
Boy, I'm rambling.
Doing great at it too.
Just tell me to shut up.
All right, 400 series. We'll keep going that way.
I have a 400, 410 electricity. You've cut it back. We've only spent about half so far this year. Have we just not had as much use of electricity because of COVID?
We haven't seen that, to be honest with you. We're about remember, this is probably a month, close to 2 months off the billing, because the billing's forward on this. We're right about exactly where we should be.
Okay.
Because we're always 30 days back of the beginning of the month, so.
It's kind of interesting that we're kind of flat given this little storm we're in. One of your big users, I presume, is the high school.
Yeah, I remember I gave you that analysis. I don't know, during the summer, and geez, we didn't see a huge difference so far. The industrial rate was down a little bit, the industrial use, but the commercial and residential rates, or the money we took in was close to normal. I don't think we're going to see a big difference.
Without getting into the sauce, your line loss recovery that you were able to achieve gives you some headroom to play with, which is good.
It always helps, yeah.
That helps.
Anything else on 400 series?
I can get you
600 series?
the latest actual usage if you want.
That would be interesting.
For rate class, yeah, I don't mind doing that.
Yeah.
Let your head up and down, Paul. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good idea.
All right. You feel like I'm doing something.
Okay, 600 series. That wraps up that one. Now, electric fund. Am I the only one that doesn't have anything for electric fund, or did I misplace it somewhere?
So there is no capital outlay this year from Municipal Electric.
And I'd like to add one, and I apologize, it didn't make the cut here, but I will have one meter reader pickup that will need to be replaced for next year. That would be typical of what we've done try to get 10 years out of these, but I spaced that one. I didn't get it out, and so I would like to add that. I can do that in the form of a capital request. Jim, how do you want to handle that?
Yeah, I would say get it in ASAP and we'll put it on for a revisit.
And get that to you tomorrow. I realized that today that didn't make it. So we'll be about, we'll be like 35, 40,000, somewhere in that range. That outfitted.
Okay, so we'll put that on the revisit list then.
And that would be it.
Okay. Do you have anything else for us tonight, Barry, or do we cover it all?
Not unless you have questions.
Paul?
Mr. Chairman, this is and I say this for no other reason other than I believe it. This is an extremely well-managed operation. It is, this person knows his stuff, knows his numbers, knows his crews, knows what's going on. This is a model of an enterprise fund that we should all aspire to have. So thank you for what you do, Barry.
No, thank you very much for that. Thank you.
How about some solar panels for free?
Never stops. Yeah, we've got to get some solar energy here.
How about some free solar panels, Barry?
Yeah, working on it. I got to work on it.
Yeah, you got something in mind.
Oh, it all comes.
It's a great job. It's a super job.
And then I guess we'll, as far as the CIP version, is that done in another? Like I said, we'll have to have a conversation. That we'll. I think we're sort of waiting for some audit info to decide what direction to go on that.
Okay. Thank you, Barry.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks,
Good evening.
Barry. Bye,
Have a
Barry.
good night.
Thanks.
Hey, Barry.
Next, coming up is going to be Police Department.
So, Mr. Chairman, you should have the 3 budgets under the police department's authority in front of you. They do have one capital request for a capital outlay. That discussion about that going forward, how we handle that, whether we handle it as a warrant article, a standalone request in the capital outlay as part of their budget, or actually just part of their budget. So that's something that's going to have to be dealt with going forward. A couple items that you'll notice as you go through this budget: significant increase in the New Hampshire Retirement System line, effective on July 1st, 2021. New Hampshire Retirement for law enforcement personnel will go from 28.43 to 33.88. So you're going to see a significant increase in that line. That's something that's completely out of our control. Additionally, you'll see a request, and Chief Rondo will be able to speak to it, for a juvenile prosecutor. He will be able to speak to that item. And you'll also observe, if you recall, last year going through the budget process, the budget committee was pretty adamant that they would like to see the other compensation line broken out in a way that reflects the holiday pay and all of those other costs. So we've done that with these 2 budgets, or these budgets here. So you're going to see some increases there. With that said, you should have the budgets in front of you. I see that the police department is in their conference room, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Town Manager. The town manager is spot on. We followed the guidance that we were given last year. We developed a budget which we thought was fairly benign this year relative to the unique circumstances we find ourselves in. Mr. Chairman, I turn it over to you to take us through.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate it. So start off with the, under the police department, which would be the general fund. We have the 100 series.
Brad,
Yes, Linda.
there's $11,000 in the part-time wages. And in here, it says a part-time juvenile service officer, and there is also a request in the back. Are you looking for 8,000 or 16,000 for that? I was kind of confused.
We're looking for $8,323.20.
Okay, so the form in the back is already in your budget itself.
Yes.
The form that says budget reinstatement, additional list is in this budget. That's not an added one.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, Linda, that's my bad. When Chief Rondo, the Police Commission, and myself sat down and went over this budget, Chief Rondo's initial request was for that budget reinstatement. Based on the conversation we had relative to the juvenile prosecutor, Chief Rondo made the decision to push hiring the juvenile prosecutor to align with the start of school in 2021. So that's why you see the reduction.
Great, thank you. Any other questions in the 100 series? $200 series. $300 series. $400 series. $500 series. $600 series. I'm going to assume the gas on line 635, the gasoline and oil, is to do with the issue that we've had going along with just the recording of how the distribution of the funds are for gas and oil.
Mr. Chairman, I would say that is an accurate statement. And I can also tell you that staff is, as a result of the questions coming up with this, we're not getting a lot of feedback from Phoenix, the company we're dealing with. So we've actually reached out to other vendors to see what other options may be available going forward. This is an item that's on the tackle list for the new finance director when she comes on board.
Okay.
So if I could, Mr. Chairman, so again, Dave Ford should be massively over budget if the rest of these characters are massively under budget.
His gas line should be, yeah.
Gas line should be, he should be like whopping over budget if all these other guys are under budget.
Well, all these other guys, we've had 3 departments, so we haven't been through a whole lot. But yes, there is something wrong, and we will get to the bottom of it.
Okay. I'm not suggesting we're not going to get to the bottom. I'm just suggesting that you know, if we have to clear this thing, just kind of pull everything out, you know, pull that whole line out of everybody's, park it off on the side, fix it, and then stick it back in when it's done. Okay, thanks, Jim.
Anything else on 600 series? 700 series? $800 series? Okay. Next will be communications. 100 series.
I have a question. On 115, is there no hazardous duty pay this year? And there's none being requested, am I correct?
That is correct, ma'am.
Okay, sometimes it's a computer error. I just wanted to check on that.
$200 series. $300 series. $400 series. $500 series. $600 series. $700 series. $800 series. Okay. Next on will be animal control. 100 series. $200 series. $300 series. $800 series. Okay, capital outlay.
Yours is in your class.
Yeah, but yours is easy to get at.
You can look at it. In the blue, a little bit. Hello. I should give it a minute.
So much effort.
Still with me, I'm very confused.
Everybody got the capital outlay opened up? Is it just the one that you said earlier that we have here?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. Just the one request for a police vehicle.
Police vehicle. Urgent. Chief, do you have anything you wanted to add to us on the capital outlay here, or?
Well, I thought what we would do is get a vehicle this year and have a portion of that offset by whatever monies we can afford out of the special detail revolving fund to lessen the cost of that, to help defray the cost of that, like we've done for the last 2 or 3 years now. There's really no mystery. We're looking for the same exact thing that we got last year. We're standardizing the fleet. It is a hybrid vehicle. So with that, we'll see a reduced operating cost in time. Which is to say, the police commission voted on that. They sent, I know, the Board of Selectmen a letter. I'm assuming that you, ladies and gentlemen, have seen that. And we think right now that it probably makes sense to do it in the capital outlay and to have it voted on by the voters as opposed to a lease. We just don't think the leases right now are a really good idea. But really, that comes down to policy level decisions, and we feel that's best addressed by yourselves.
Well, until we get the 2019 audit, we're not gonna know how much is left in the special detail fund.
Okay.
Well, we still have time though, right?
Yeah, we have plenty of time, but we don't have that to know whether to balance that or how exactly to move here. If you're gonna ask the voters to let you take a significant amount of money or money out of the special detail fund, that would have to be a warrant article. If it
Yeah.
isn't, we can leave it as a capital outlay, but we don't even know how much is in there to know whether it's worth. So we need that figure before we can decide on this. So I don't know how we send that over to the budget committee.
Well, there's two issues actually, Linda. One is, you're right, we have to understand from the auditors what's in the kitty. And then the second is the ask that the police commission, I think, appropriately put to us, which is, do we buy it or do we lease it? And I think this is probably a go-do for the new finance person. I think the second item could be worked on pro forma without knowing the first item. Let's assume, just for the heck of it, that the revolving fund gives you 10 grand or 5,000, pick a number. Take the retail price of the cruiser, take 5 off the top, and then run a whether you make it, whether you buy it or whether you lease it kind of an analysis. That'll at least get, I think, going for the budget committee. And then once we figure out whether we have extra monies, then we do it. So I think we can answer the police commission's request. Maybe not buying down the principal of the lease or the principal of the capital purchase at the present time.
There's just one question, maybe more of a comment here. Looking through the papers here, Chief, looks like the price you have in here for the car there is complete package. That's all set up, radios, all the equipment you need and everything on that. There's nothing else needs to be added to this when this comes, it's ready to put into service and use daily, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I'm gonna turn it over to the captain in a little bit more detail, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, so that includes all the upfitting, everything it is to just get it out on patrol. Our last year's cruiser came in a week ago, and we dropped it down at two-way last week. So we're hoping to get that one on the road within 2 to 3 weeks. So that's your time frame once we order that in April. We're looking at this time.
It's about 9 to 10 months from the time we order in March, immediately after vote, to the time we're getting the cruiser on the road to the patrolman that need it the most.
Do you have a usable light bar, or do you need another one?
We need for this new cruiser, yes, we do need a new light bar. So that is included in the upfitting. So we'll need that for this year and the following year. Then we'll be all caught up. Then we can start switching them and swapping them out. Not everything will transfer over based on the newer vehicles. They do redesign them every 5 years, a little tweaks, but most everything can swap over.
You'll be pretty standardized by then.
Yes, they will, sir.
Any other questions, board members? All right, gentlemen, I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too, sir.
Mr. Chairman, just to tie that up, the mention regarding the audit will not, most likely will not be delivered until mid-November to the Board of Selectmen. The auditors were in-house last 2 days, finishing up the paperwork. Tremendous thank you to our previous finance director, Peter Chamberlain. He took, when he came on board, took this task to heart and got everything to a point where the auditors could come in and complete the audit. So I pushed the auditor as much as I could to try and get an earlier date, but he's anticipating delivering to the Board of Selectmen the second Board of Selectmen meeting in November. So, and if it's early, I'll push it.
Can you ask him whether he can give us any drafts on the enterprise funds? Sometimes they have kind of a draft sheet, at least would give us some kind of idea where we are on these.
Yep, I can certainly do that. That is not an issue.
Yeah, I second that. There's a monster coming at us with Pop Whalen. And we're gonna have a conversation about that whole enterprise fund, how we pay for this prospective repair of the facility. That one's in front of my mind too.
Mhm.
Okay. We have a funding update for CARES. You want to take care of that, Mr. Pinio, or?
That was what
I believe that was
at the beginning of
Paul's
the-
item.
That was my
he
30-second update, Brad.
Yeah, you
Have at the beginning.
yours to the
That
front.
was my 30-second update. I'll give it again if you want it.
Don't let him
I
go.
know,
Don't let him go again.
You took at least 45 seconds, Paul, so. All right,
No,
thanks.
we don't need an overview.
But wait, there's more.
Okay, public input. Do we have anybody out there in the public that would like to speak to us? We have 3 minutes allotted per person, not to exceed 15. Seeing nobody out there, we haven't heard anything.
Like a motion to adjourn?
Yep, we just announced too, we are meeting next Thursday, 2 nights from tonight, so we'll see everybody Thursday night. Now we have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seeing no further objection to this, I declare the meeting adjourned.
Well, don't we have to vote?
Yeah, we have to vote, Brad.
I say yes.
Yes.
I thought I could do it with that statement there. I thought that kind of sufficed. Okay. Yes for me. Paul's a yes. Dave Bowers is not sitting there, but I'm going to
He's a
assume
yes.
that's a yes.
He said yes as he walked away.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you in 2 nights.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Have a
You
great
bet.
evening.